Good evening, everybody. You may be seated. Good evening. It's indeed an honor and privilege to be with each and every one of you this evening. It's good to make that trip across the bridge out of the swamp and into Northern Virginia. Always honored to be with fellow Virginians and fellow folks from all across the country tonight. It's an honor to be here. This week, in the last couple of weeks, we started in earnest our presidential campaign. First, we had Iowa. Did we learn anything really out of Iowa? We learned some things. Just this week, we had New Hampshire. Did we learn some things out of New Hampshire? And I think we did. First of all, one thing we've learned is if you look at both the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary, only 50% of the registered Republicans voted in the primary. 50%. That's quite a number. And that means 50% of the registered Republicans stayed home. And at the speeches the other night, Tuesday night, I was watching. And really, when you give these speeches, when you come out on primary night or election night, you should be talking about your agenda and your plan for the nation. Not attacking your opponent, not calling your opponent names. Almost sounded a little bit like, I want to say almost like grade school there. But the presidency is not grade school. It's not grade school. And you need to really talk about your vision for America. Yeah, there was a candidate out there who talked about a vision and a plan that they had for our country. But others want to sit there and just call and name call. Others have said in the past they wanted to be a dictator from day one. Well, let me make you this promise here tonight. If elected on day one, I will be a president, not a dictator. It's just simply amazing that this is happening. And this is, I think we're at the root. We're getting to the root of the problem, that there's so much polarization in this country. In the past 4 years, going on almost 4 years, we've become so divided that we're yelling at one another. We used to not be that way. What's happened to our country? Why is it that if we disagree with somebody, we take violence against them? Why do we do that? Well, tonight, I come before you with a vision and a plan for the next 4 years, unlike some of the opponents in this race. In the tapestry of the last 3 years, our nation has faced trials that tested our resilience, from the relentless grip of an unprecedented pandemic to the growing polarization. We have weathered storms that have challenged our unity. Tonight, I stand before you not just as a leader, but as a fellow citizen, ready to outline a vision to restore America to the pinnacle of its former glory. In the past 3 years, we've achieved significant progress, witnessing a remarkable reduction in unemployment. Now think about this. Almost 4 years ago at this time, we were on the brink of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. We were getting ready to shut this country down. Unemployment was about where it is right now, but overnight it skyrocketed to 15.5%. Now it's down in the threes, to impressive threes. Under the banner of my administration, we are committed to overhauling the unemployment system. No longer will it be a system susceptible to exploitation. Under a program called Enhanced Unemployment, the system will mandate there's a minimum of 5 job interviews per week for continued benefits, ensuring that every able-bodied American is presented with ample opportunities for gainful employment. Now, when I speak of able-bodied, let me be clear. I'm excluding our seniors and stay-at-home parents. Who I am addressing, however, are those who, despite the waning and almost the pandemic being gone from the radar, opted for unemployment and have not returned to the workforce. This status quo needs to change, and under my leadership, it will. We have another challenge, and it's the skyrocketing, ridiculous cost of prescription drugs. It's not just a policy point, but a moral imperative. It's unjust for individuals to bear the burden of paying hundreds for medications while Big Pharma is over here reaping in billions in profits. I got a good friend of mine back home in Texas, an educator. And educators, as you know, if you heard me say, are not rich. We'll talk about that for Back to Basics. That's a plan that I hope increases teacher pay. But this particular teacher pays hundreds of dollars in a prescription drug that's not an option that she needs. How fair is that? How fair is that when Big Pharma is over here raking in billions of dollars? It's got to stop. And under my administration, it will. You know, there's another topic that's hot this campaign cycle, and it's conversion to electric vehicles. You know, as we stand on the precipice of a significant shift towards electric vehicles, it's crucial to acknowledge the transformative potential they bring to our transportation landscape. However, in our eagerness to embrace this change, we must exercise prudence and consider the readiness of our infrastructure. The transition to electric vehicles is not merely about swapping traditional cars for their electric counterparts. It involves a comprehensive overhaul of our infrastructure. Charging stations, power grids, and support systems need to be robust and widespread to truly facilitate a seamless EV experience for everyone. Back home in Texas, my hometown, just south of Dallas, 65,000 people live in this community. Now, there may be more, there's probably just a handful of them, but I know of one charging station in that town. It's at a restaurant. One charging station for 65,000 people. That's not going to work. I will make you this commitment. As president, we will not make this conversion until the infrastructure in this country is ready to support it. It does no good to have EV vehicles that sit in driveways, stranded on the side of the roads. We have to have the infrastructure in place, and we won't convert until it's in place. You know, just the other night, I heard a story around the Iowa caucus about how a vehicle, now I know it was 40 below zero up there, or close to it, that it was literally frozen, an electric vehicle, and it wouldn't start. What's going to happen to people stranded on the side of the road? We have to have the infrastructure in place. My administration will continue to put the infrastructure in place, but we're not going to rush to a completion date to just hurry up and say it's done. When it's done, we'll make the transition. You know, and I say this, and, you know, if we rush to this, it's akin to setting sail without a navigational map. Imagine getting into a boat and just setting sail to a distant island and not having a map. How are we going to get there? People have come up to podiums and made countless speeches. Oh, we're going to do it in 20, 30, 40 years. How can we have a timetable on something that's still being developed that may not even make that time frame? I will make you this commitment here tonight. We will not do that transformation and that transition until we are ready. You know, in another comparison, it's like having a powerful engine without the roads to drive on. Imagine a scenario where we all embrace electric vehicles, but the charging infrastructure is inadequate. The result could be frustration, inconvenience, and a potential slowdown in the widespread adoption of cleaner transportation. Waiting patiently until the infrastructure is in place ensures that the benefits of EVs are maximized while minimizing the potential pitfalls Our journey towards a sustainable future requires careful planning and strategic execution. Let us not be hasty in our pursuit, but rather deliberate in ensuring that our infrastructure is ready to support the electric revolution. By doing so, we pave the way for a smoother, more efficient transition that benefits not only us, but generations to come. We're laying the groundwork today for our children, and we need to lay that groundwork so that they're ready to transition when that time comes. You know, shifting our focus to the issue of the borders, let me affirm that the United States welcomes people, but it must occur through proper channels, not through unauthorized crossings. We will reestablish border control to ensure border security. And I think about this. I think about the thousands of people crossing the Rio Grande River, not going through the proper channels. Last month, almost at this time, I made a trip to El Paso and visited the International Bridge. And what I saw, what right there was hundreds of people during my brief visit to the bridge there. I saw hundreds of people making the crossing legally. My pastor back home in Texas moved from Ghana. He didn't cross the bridge down in Laredo or wherever. He didn't cross the border that way. He came through the proper channels and is now on the road to citizenship in our country. That must be the way we do it. Under my administration, we will do it that way. The Middle East has been marred by decades of conflict, and the Israeli-Palestinian issue remains at the heart of this turmoil. I firmly believe that a just and equal solution lies in the establishment of two independent states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. The two-state solution is not just a diplomatic concept, it's a vision for a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can coexist, recognizing each other's right to self-determination. This solution is grounded in the principles of fairness, mutual respect, and the recognition of the legitimate aspirations of both peoples. It is essential to acknowledge the historical pain and suffering experienced by Palestinians. The two-state solution provides a framework to address the legitimate concerns and rights of both parties. Ensuring a path forward toward reconciliation and coexistence. This approach offers a realistic and viable way forward, promoting stability and prosperity for the entire region. Supporting a two-state solution does not mean taking sides. Rather, it's an endorsement of a just and comprehensive resolution that accommodates the rights, security, and dignity of both Israelis and Palestinians. It's a call for dialogue, diplomacy, and a commitment to finding common ground for the betterment of all involved. And I truly believe we will see this happen. I'm fully dedicated to this process and will do everything in my power to see that these two sides do coexist and there is a two-state solution in Israel. Now, another issue that has really been on the table here lately. Let me say this first and foremost. I believe in the sanctity of life, and I recognize the profound value of every individual. And I truly do. Life is important. Life is a gift that was given to us by a higher power. Now, in my heart, I believe that terminating one's life is wrong. However, I recognize the value of every individual. At the same time, I firmly believe in a woman's right to make choices about her own body and reproductive health. The issue of abortion rights is multifaceted, involving personal beliefs, ethical consideration, and legal frameworks. Supporting a woman's right to choose does not diminish the recognition of the inherent value of life. Rather, it acknowledges the complexities of individual circumstance and the autonomy that women deserve in making deeply personal decisions. It is crucial to approach this topic with empathy, understanding that each person's solution is unique. As a society, we must strive to create an environment where women have access to comprehensive reproductive health care, education, and support. It's essential to address the root causes that may lead to individuals to consider abortion and work towards a society that values the well being of all its members. You know, and legislation and policy should be crafted with careful consideration of both the protection of life and the preservation of individual freedoms. Striking a balance between these values requires open dialogue, compassion, and a commitment to understanding the diverse perspectives that exist within our communities. And I thought really hard about that decision because, like I said, deep down inside of me, I think it's wrong to terminate a life. But I also realize that the country we live in is the United States of America, where we all have rights. And I believe that women should have the right to choose what to do with their own body. You know, education reform also stands as a pivotal cornerstone of our nation's restoration. Our classrooms should be sanctuaries of learning, not a political battlefield. Education should pivot back to fundamentals, teaching history objectively to prevent the repeating of past mistakes. We think about this every morning. Many Americans drop off their most prized possession to schools and charter schools, throughout private schools throughout our country. And they are entrusting educators to educate them. As an educator, we owe that child, I say we, I'm in education too, we owe that child education. We owe them to teach them the ABCs, the one, two, threes, the good, the bad, the ugly of history. Yes, we need to teach them mistakes. There's been a movement to sanitize our history. How are we going to learn from our past mistakes if we don't teach it in our classrooms? I'm not going to stand up here tonight and tell you that in almost over 200 years of existence, the United States of America did everything perfect. We have not. We've made many mistakes in our lifespan, but we need to teach those mistakes to this generation so that they don't repeat the same mistakes. You know, I have a personal understanding of the challenges faced by educators. Being married to one for over 2 decades, I recognize the need to increase teacher pay. While acknowledging it's a state level matter, my administration pledges to assist states in funding these raises without encroaching upon their autonomy. And that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that it's not a Washington power grab. It's not mandating how you're going to dispose the money. What we're doing is we're providing the funding so that you can pay the teachers. There's so many teachers that are living below the poverty level, and that's got to come to an end. And we also need to look at that teacher recruitment. Oftentimes, teachers get in teaching, and they think it's a wonderful profession. It is. It is the most greatest profession in the world. I better say that because I'm married to an educator. I better say it is the greatest profession in the world. But it is. It is. And these educators need to be paid a livable wage. People get in this job and think it's a 7:45 to 3:15 and I'm out the door and headed home. They start the job and they realize at 7:45 to 3:15, carrying your laptop home and doing work at night, doing work on weekends, submitting grades, making calls, parent-teacher conferences, programs. It's 80 hours plus a week educating. Our teachers deserve to be paid that 80 hours per week. They deserve to get paid top pay. And under my administration, under Back to Basics, that will occur. The other problem that can make this whole process complete is restoring patriotism and reinforcing the fundamentals like history. It's not just a campaign slogan, but an imperative. We reject the decisive influences of woke education. My education plan, and it's really called Back to Basics, aims to support teachers, provide quality education, and prepare students for the future by taking politics out of the classroom. And it comes down to respect. Respect for one another forms the bedrock of a united nation. We've borne witness to violent divisions, families shattered by gun violence. My administration advocates for gun reform without infringing on rights and increased mental health support for those in need. The plan unveiled here tonight is not merely a policy agenda. It's the opening chapter in our journey to restore the greatness of the United States. And I want to end with this. There's a great fellow Texan, great artist, a guy named Tom Lee. Matter of fact, one of his paintings hung in the Oval Office a few years ago. Great painting called El Paso. And Tom talks about how him and his wife, Sarah, live on the east side of the mountain. If you haven't been, if you go out to West Texas, there's tons of mountains. And living on the east side of the mountain, Tom said he could see the sunrise of the day ahead, not the sunset of the day that has passed. My fellow Americans, I truly believe that the United States lives on the east side of the mountain, and our best days are yet to come. May God bless you. May God bless our troops, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much. Thank you.